Hi, I'm Dennis Weiss for Eagle Communications. Welcome to our town. We have two guests today. We're pretty excited about this because they have a very important message about tobacco cessation, which means stopping those filthy habits. Dr. Kim Richter, Daniel Craig. Daniel, we see you in Abilene about once a year.
Yeah, I like to run, be involved with fitness, wellness in the community.
You're kind of our resident, the guy to beat in the Eisenhower Marathon.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, good. So you work for the Central Kansas Foundation.
I do. I'm the Wellness and Prevention Coordinator there.
All right. So that is really the topic of today, centered on tobacco, right? It's the efforts of both your organizations to help people do what they really want to do, which is not be a smoker anymore. So kick us off, Dr. Richter, and let's talk about what is new in tobacco cessation efforts here in Kansas.
Yeah, I think really what brings us here today is the fact that we have a legislature that just passed a budget, and as part of that budget, they set aside a good bit of money to expand access for people, specifically in Kansas Medicaid, to make sure that they had seamless access to quit smoking medications. So there are 7 different quit smoking medications. I'm going to name them all because I want you to know about them, and that's 5 nicotine replacement therapies. That's the gum, lozenge, patch, nasal spray, and inhaler. And all of those things are covered by Kansas Medicaid with no copay and no prior authorization. And also there are 2 non-nicotine medications, and that's Chantix or varenicline, which a lot of people have heard about, and Zyban, which is also known as Wellbutrin or bupropion. And those 2, all those medications for people who are Medicaid beneficiaries are free with no copay, and they can get 4 rounds of treatment per year. So people really have the doorways open to them to try some things, see what works, see what doesn't work, until they're finally able to quit. And so I think that's the main thing, the main news we want to get out today.
When I read your bio, looked at your bio and read the things that Dave Martin had sent us to talk about here, the 2 new things I saw that really I didn't know. You just mentioned that Medicaid has money available to pay for this, and the repetitive opportunity, 4 times a year.
Yep.
Well, everybody watching has known somebody tried to quit smoking, and boy, I don't know anybody that did it round 1.
Yeah,
So,
and you know, I think it's important for people to realize that not only Medicaid covers for this, but this is bringing Medicaid up to speed, because private insurance has been required to cover all of these medications with no copay and no prior authorization since 2014, and nobody knows about it. And Medicare Part D also is supposed to cover at least 1 or 2 of the prescription medications, and those are the nicotine inhaler, nicotine nasal spray, and the Chantix and the Zyban. So if you've got any kind of health insurance, odds are you've got great coverage for quit smoking medications.
that's really good news.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that. We have a Healthy Eagle program at our company at Eagle Communications, and so we kind of get reminded with emails that these opportunities are available. But I'm pretty sure you're right. I don't think everybody knows that.
Yeah. I'm pretty pumped, and I know Daniel, you guys are too. You're doing great work here in Salina.
Daniel, Central Kansas Foundation has been an important foundational block to better living, healthier living here in this entire area for a long time.
Yeah, CKF's been in the community for over 50 years.
Yeah, and this is great work. So I think about tobacco. I told you this would be conversational. So, you know, I'm 60 years old. I've watched tobacco kind of come and go, both smoking and chewing tobacco kind of come and go. Sure has injured a lot of lives. So Central Kansas Foundation helps people with addiction problems, and tobacco is the focus of today's conversation, Daniel.
Yeah, CKF offers a wide range of addiction treatment services, and we're really excited at CKF. We're moving towards having a tobacco-free facility, and we're also offering a full range of tobacco dependence treatment for patients going through our inpatient and outpatient treatment services there. We're really fortunate to have a great community as well. We've got the health department, Tammy Walker Cancer Center, Salina Regional Health Center. A lot of organizations offer a lot of great programs and provide a lot of great support to people to help them quit.
I got a question for you. Do addictions run together, like tobacco and other substances. Do you see that relationship as a high, medium, low? Valid statement or not?
Yeah, so SAMHSA just put out a flyer a while back, and they indicated that probably up to or even more than 65% of patients going through substance abuse treatment also use tobacco products. And actually, there's been some studies that have shown that more alcoholics die from tobacco-related illnesses than from alcoholism.
My dad was a World War II guy. Both his brothers, World War II, they all were in the heats of the battle. You know, Uncle Sam used to put 4 little cigarettes in a little box in all the C rations. So they all came home smokers. And that generation came home smokers, or even that didn't go were smokers. And that was all the Pall Malls and the Camels and all those things. That generation suffered a lot of early loss of life and quality of life due to tobacco before it became, you know, medically aware to us, the citizenry, that that's not a good thing, and then became a focus point. In my life, I've watched, I guess, all of that happen. So disturbs me to go out today and see young people picking up a cigarette. 'Cause there's no good end to that. There's just no good way that ends.
Well, both my mom and my dad served in World War II. My mom was in the Women's Auxiliary Corps. My dad was a pilot, and he was in the Pacific Theater, and she was in the European Theater.
We need to get you to the Eisenhower Presidential Library.
I've been there.
There's a program next week, I think, on the wax.
Oh, wow. Well, I live in Lecompton. It's not that far from me, so maybe I'll drag my family out.
I'll get you connected.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. But they both started smoking, and my dad quit because he was a pilot, an airline pilot, and he got a spot on his lung, and he stopped when I was about 12. I remember that. And then my mom, though, she drank a good bit, and she never could quit smoking. And so that stuff, you know, it not only goes together, but it also runs in families. And so people need to realize, I think folks have a lot of shame and it's hard for them to try to seek out medical help when they're quitting smoking with medications because they feel like they should be able to do it, and it's a sign of weakness. But you know, people are strong, but tobacco dependence, that addiction, is super, super strong. And so I think, you know, it's just really a great thing to do. It's a sign of strength to reach out and say, you know, I've tried 6 times, it hasn't worked. I'm going to try a medication this time, or 1 time, or 2 time, or hey, this is the first time I'm going to try. I'm going to give it my best swing. I'm going to do medications. I'm going to get some support because, you know, the sooner you stop, the better. Although no matter how old you are, you're going to save, you're going to live longer and better if you're able to quit.
I often hear people talk about, you know, I just want to quit. I want to quit right now. And we've started to apply cold turkey, you know, descriptive phrase to that. That doesn't have to be that way, and it's not a badge of courage. Your goal is to win, right? Daniel Craig, runner, your goal is to win. If you're a sprinter, you get out front. You know, if you're a pacer, you just get on the clock and ride it. Goal is to win. So whether it's you're fortunate enough you can just lay something down cold turkey and walk away, or whether you need 4 treatments a year through the program you just mentioned, the goal is the same. It's to be able to stop.
Yeah, you know, I just had an image popped in my mind of Daniel doing a marathon in flip-flops. He would not do that. No. I bet you get the best shoes you can,
He could still beat me in flip-flops. So.
Yeah, he probably could beat me.
And we know what works with tobacco cessation. It's a combination of counseling and medications are the 2 things that are going to give people the best chance to be successful in that quit attempt.
I really appreciate both of you coming to the interview because of what you just said. So there's medicine, there's counseling. And oftentimes, whether it's informal or formal counseling, that support from other people are vital to people having the willpower and the follow-through to stop.
Yeah, talking to your doctor, talking to your dentist, talking to family members, friends, just getting support from people. I think letting people know that you're trying to quit, and then how they can help you. Yeah. So that way they know when, you know, how they can help you quit.
So can we talk about the non-smokeless tobacco for a bit? Because from my history, I grew up in southwest Colorado. About 7th grade, almost every boy started chewing tobacco. It was just a thing to do. It only took me 1 bus trip to quit tobacco. But anyway, I've only known 1 person who was a long-time chewer of Skoal that quit and stayed quit. I think it's so addictive because not only is it tobacco, it has so many physical habits that go with it to support it. It's the can in the pocket. It's the slapping on the can with the hand. It's all those little things like cleaning the pipe. You know, it's all those little motions.
Yeah, and what goes on in your brain is different too.
To your
well,
brain.
because with smokeless tobacco, it doesn't hit your brain as fast as when you puff on a cigarette. But because you keep it in your mouth for so long, you get very high levels of nicotine in your brain, and that means your brain has adapted to that. You get more nicotine receptors in your brain to sort of take in all of that nicotine. And so when you try to stop, those receptors are screaming, "Feed me." And it's really, really, really hard to stop. And also, you're able to use your hands, so it really fits in with your life. And so, but when you stop it, then suddenly you're less productive. You can't concentrate. You're irritable, etc.
And your hands don't know what to do.
And your hands don't know what to do. So it's incredibly difficult. People don't realize that. But those medications and the support, they work just as well.
So my buddy, he was 6'4" and 250 when he was lean. Okay, so, and he was a police officer in Southwest Colorado. He lived about 40 miles from me. On Sunday morning when he was trying to quit, he'd be at my house at 6 o'clock in the morning. And I lived in this little tiny house. And it just sat on the ground on wood foundation. So he would come through, wouldn't knock, he'd just come in the house and he'd yell at me, "Get up, get up." And he'd start pacing back and forth. I swear would rock the whole house, Daniel. But he was driving 40 miles so we could go do something to take his mind off of that skull can. 10 years after he quit, he would still tap his pocket and rub his lip.
Wow.
And that's why a combination of counseling and medications together are so important. When we think of tobacco addiction, we think of the physical addiction, and that's one component, but there's all those associations people have. Maybe it's first thing in the morning, maybe it's with certain outdoor events, certain activities they're used to using tobacco. And so if you can not have withdrawal symptoms, then you're able to focus on those behavioral components of the addiction.
Yeah, you know, I didn't know anything about any of this, but I recognized that he was struggling with his hand-to-mouth habit, and I pointed it out to him. And once he got his mind around that, he was better able to understand. He could supply other things to those hand motions and oral touching his mouth. And maybe it helped him, maybe it didn't, but at least he was aware that it was part of his addiction.
Yeah, I think the other thing we don't talk about as much, but I've always been a believer, we don't quit things, we replace them. So if tobacco is how a person deals with stress, if they don't find a healthy way to deal with stress, the first time they're really stressed out, it's going to be easy to go back to the one way they know how to deal with stress.
Boy, that's an excellent point. Hadn't thought of that. So with Dr. Richter, we have making certain people know that private insurance and Medicaid are paying.
And Medicare.
And
all
Medicare
pay
are
for
all
medications.
paying
Yes.
for good, appropriate treatments to help you break the physical addiction of tobacco.
Yeah, and it's also important to note that they also will reimburse providers for providing that care. So providers can start looking into how can they submit for reimbursement for counseling people how to use those medications, for pointing out those things to people about their habits, and also for linking people with other sources of support. They can get reimbursed for that.
So let's talk about quality of life, because that's where my mind went. I look at Daniel as a runner. It's obviously you'd have a hard time being a Camel smoker and maintaining your quality of life as a marathoner, a runner, because your ability to breathe is decreased, right? But there's lots of other quality of life issues around tobacco. You think of the social impact. No restaurant is in Kansas, and nothing indoors supposed to be. Smoking is allowed. So the societal impulse has pushed smokers away. That's not a fun thing for them. That's not good. To become pariahs is never welcomed by a person. But so they've been moved away. It's a great opportunity to increase their quality of life by seeking both medical and counseling help to be able to leave that weight behind. Seems to me to be a great opportunity.
Yeah, and I would just say, just make it part of an overall healthy lifestyle change. So start, visit with your doctor about starting to eat healthier, be more active, and all of those things together, you'll just feel a lot better.
talking about quitting smoking, people used to commonly say, I'm going to gain 15, 20 pounds. Well, it's not because of the nicotine went away, it's because your eating went up, right? And some of those things that I think, I'm guessing, you tell me, feel free, tell me I'm wrong. So, but it's a one-to-one relationship almost, you know, with tobacco, but it doesn't have to be, right?
Yeah, a lot of times people will replace tobacco with sugary products that are high in calories, and so if people can, you know, work with a registered dietitian, really develop a healthy meal plan, people may still gain some weight initially, but I think they're going to be more active, they're going to feel better, they're going to be able to get out and do more things. So over time, I think a lot of people will lose that weight that they've gained initially.
Yeah, I guess I just wanted you to say it doesn't have to be. Right? There are choices. It does not have to be.
The medications also help kind of reduce the weight gain while you're taking them, but then people quickly, once they stop smoking and the quit smoking medications, they tend to pick up some weight. But it absolutely doesn't have to be. Your sense of smell's better, your ability to taste is better, so food tastes better, which is great, and so why not put better food in your mouth, you know? So I think that you know, if you're mindful of it, then you can keep it to a minimum. And you know what? No matter if you gain weight or not, in terms of your health, you're doing yourself a huge favor by quitting smoking. Even if you gain some weight, it's better for you.
So your organization is pretty focused on this. You're here today on this mission, right?
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about the impact to society, because if there isn't a big negative impact, your organization wouldn't be doing this. Right. So there is one.
Yeah, there is. And you know, another professor from University of Kansas Medical Center did an analysis, a cost analysis of what is it worth actually paying for these medications for people, for giving them 4 rounds of treatment per year. And actually she came out, she found that even if you take into account the cost of treating people, Kansas is going to come out way ahead. And also, if they quit, the reduction in the tax that we're going to get from those cigarettes people buy, you put all that in one part of the scale, and you put all the savings in the other part of the scale, reduce healthcare costs, people living longer and able to be productive members of the society. We come out ahead as a state because we're saving all those dollars, and then, you know, we're not even putting on the scale all the misery and heartache that we're saving by helping people quit early.
I think it's important to say that all of us, everybody watching, has known somebody, right, that really their life was degraded so much by tobacco, usually smoking, because you see it. You hear the coughs, you watch the decreased activity, you watch the rapid decline when people get old in their quality of life, and in fact the stopping of life because they can't breathe. We've all seen one. But as you sit here and you talk about it, we talk about economics on this little show all the time. I want to emphasize that this little bit of funding that's coming in to help people stop smoking will pay us huge dividends as a society, as a state, and as individual families will benefit from this, just stopping the poisoning of oneself through the inhalation of tobacco smoke. It's a good thing.
Yeah, and I think that people who smoke or use smokeless, they see people looking at them and they feel a little bit like a pariah or something, and and that is not what we or healthcare providers are about. I think nobody should be shamed into changing a behavior because tobacco is super addictive. Most people started when they were kids before their brain was even developed. And also it does run in families, so there is a huge genetic kind of predisposition toward taking pleasure in smoking, finding it helpful. So the cards are stacked against some people when it comes to tobacco use. And we shouldn't be shaming people. We should just be saying, hey, we know it's hard. It may take a number of rounds. You may need to change treatment a couple different times, just like you had to do when you're getting the diabetes medication right, or asthma, or blood pressure. So we now have the tools to do that, to provide longitudinal dynamic care, and hey, you know, we've got your back. And so you can talk to your healthcare providers about this or about a loved one, and they can, you know, hopefully they'll be getting on board with this new attitude because, yeah, it's a great time to quit.
Boy, what a wonderful segue into a close. That was. This is an inspirational opportunity, this show, to talk about this. There's help available, both medical and physical counseling to be able to stop smoking. I think everybody knows that it's a good thing to stop, but they may not know that pathway to medicine, pathway to counseling, and they may need a support group. They may need you to tell them, hey, I saw this program yesterday, and did you know that insurance will pay for that? And oh, by the way, there are people available in Salina and Abilene to be able to help us with the mind portion of stopping. So, boy, this is a great show. Enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Will you come to Eisenhower to the WAC thing if I get?
It's next weekend, which is Father's Day
I think it's in the middle of the week.
It is. I will look into it. I do
I'll
have a
send it
busy
to
schedule,
you.
but I even have my mom's uniform.
Okay, you have.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness!
I know.
Well, they want to see you.
No.
So you give me your email. And
I
I'll
will.
Give it to
I
you.
will give
Now,
it to
Daniel,
you.
you're racing next year, right?
I am racing next year, and if
Yep.
I could just say one thing, it's just a huge thank you to our school districts and all of our teachers for the great job they do around educating kids around the dangers of tobacco.
Yeah.
Well said.
Because it's so hard for people to quit, so it's really important to help youth not to start.
Very good. Wow, I've enjoyed visiting with Dr. Richter and Daniel Craig. We have appreciated the opportunity to remind you that help's available to stop smoking, and it's available right here. So thank you. I'm Dennis Weiss. I work for Eagle Communications. We're wishing you a great day.